Everybody, this is Ben Colby, Teen Librarian, with a beginner level video on how to create a robot figurine in Tinkercad. Last week we did a imposter, which is similar, but the robot figure is going to be laying down on his back. And yeah, so let's just put some shapes together. I can just drag a box over to get things started. I'm going to change this radius just slightly in the shape menu. I'm going to do this for all the shapes in this design because I think it's nice to round off the edges of your of the box shape anyway. So that's good. And so this starts off as a 20 by 20 by 20 thing. That's millimeters. There's 25 millimeters in an inch, so this is slightly less than an inch. I'm just going to, let's say I want my figurine to be a few inches tall, and so that'll be the middle body part, kind of like a bar of soap. Let's just squish it down a little bit. So that's the center of the body. Let's start with the head. You could obviously do this in any number of ways, but I'm just going to actually copy this shape. I can do that with an Alt drag or Control D for duplicate, which you can also do with this button up here, or copy and paste. Different options for creating copies. But this copy, I'm just going to shrink down until it's a little bit smaller and it looks kind of like a head. And then I will just barely stick it on and just zoom in a little bit to make sure that it is actually connected. And it is. And also more or less centered, which I can do a little better with. There you go. Great. Let's add some facial features to the robot. We could even just stick with this box shape for the entire design. That would be interesting. Let's do that, because you can still get a lot of variation. I'm using the Shift key. I guess it doesn't matter if I use the Shift key. I will just use the controls to make something a little smaller. And that's good. I'm going to lift it up off the ground. I'm going to drag it into about where I want it. This can be a little hard to get used to. You might need to move the camera around to get a good angle on what you're doing, and you may need to use the undo button a lot or Control Z. That's all right. Totally normal. So I'm using my arrows, and that's pretty good. And I think I have one eye complete. So instead of doing that, instead of resizing something again, I'm just going to do that Alt drag trick, or duplicate, or copy and paste. Now I have two eyes. Let's add some teeth. So I'm going to take another copy, put it over here. Actually, I'm going to drag it off to the side just so I can work with it a little more. And I'm shrinking it because I want my teeth to be a little smaller and a little flatter. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. I'm using the F key to zoom in on my selection. I want to create a pattern where the teeth are alternating. So I'm going to go ahead and group these two shapes, and let's do the Alt drag again, and I get both of them. And let's make it a set of 8. So I'll group these so they're one shape, and then I'll copy the whole thing. That looks good. And should group it one more time. Control G also groups stuff. Okay. It looks like a mouth. Let me, let's see, I want to remove just one of these. So I'm going to do some ungrouping here until I'm down to just one thing I can cut. Good. And let me show you a trick for selecting just everything that's left. I look at it from the side, and then I can just move it over. All right. Maybe that was unnecessarily complicated for making the mouth, but you get the idea. So yeah, let's just keep using this shape, and I'm gonna make the body shorter. I'm gonna drag another copy off to be the first leg, and let's just make the legs kind of skinny, and they're also gonna shrink back a little bit. And then once you have one, Alt drag it, try to get it roughly the same. Look at it from the side. Yep, I think I got them in there the same. And how about some arms? Well, Alt drag or copy and paste. Now, the only difference with the arms, I think, is that I want it to be tilted a little bit. So I have these arrows that I can use to control the rotation. So I'm going to just... Now, you notice you have the snap grid on the inside if you need to make sharp movements to like 22 degrees or 45 degrees. I want to just drag it along the outside and just tip it a little bit. That's fine. And then just make sure it's overlapping. Actually, let's make this articulated a little more. So what I mean is it would be kind of squished, and then I'm going to make another copy. And let's just rotate it a little more. It's a little bit warped by now. No, you know what I'm going to do? Let's see. How about that? I'm going to tip it in, and I'm going to tip it up a little bit too. Oops. Get a better angle on that. I'm going to tip it up just a little bit. So now he's got an articulated arm a little bit. We have a slight problem here with the thing dipping below the surface. I'm going to deal with that right at the end. I'm going to select one shape, hold Shift, and select two shapes. Or I guess I could just drag a box over these two shapes. I want them grouped together. And I want another copy. Alt and drag. And I want it to be facing the other way. So here's this mirror key up here, or I can use M, flip it. And then turn that mode off, and you can drag it right onto the body. And let's say I want this arm to be pointing up a little bit more. And I'll just use that black cone to lift it off the ground a little bit. Actually, that's a pretty simple way to just deal with the problems of things sticking off the ground. I'm going to do that over here too. I'm going to hit the D key to just raise it up so that it's completely... So there's nothing left underneath the surface. Pretty good. I'm going to stop here. I'm just going to suggest some other things you could do with this. You have text shapes that you could put on. That could be interesting. You obviously have a lot of other shapes for the body. Also, I'm going to go into these characters in this character menu. Here's a nice hand that you could put into place. There are some sunglasses you could put on there, or a mustache, etc. Add your own touch to it. Bunny ears. And on the printer, you know, we're going to have some stuff sticking out in space here. We're going to need to put some supports underneath this, but that's actually fine. As long as everything is stuck together, that's really the main thing that we're looking at here. So we have just created a basic robot by stretching out the box shape only in Tinkercad.